Hello, my name is Mary, and in this video I'm going to show you how I use an interchangeable needle set to do Judy's Magic Cast-On. Judy's Magic Cast-On was originally published as a technique in Knitty, and so I have put a link to that article below. But it is a great method not just for when you want to cast on the toe of a toe-up sock, which is how a lot of people use it, but also as a provisional cast-on when you want to start in the middle of a piece and knit both up and down from that cast-on. This is a technique that I use in my Zanzibar Waves shawl, so I will put a link to that below as well. So right here I have some interchangeable needles, and the way I set up for Judy's Magic Cast-On is normally you would have 2 needle tips in one size on each side of a circular cable. But for Judy's Magic Cast-On, the way that I do it with interchangeable needles, I put each size on a different cable and then stoppers on the other end. So to do the cast-on, and I'm just going to do a few stitches here to show you, you tie a slip knot as you normally would. So a slip knot, you just make a loop, and this is the end of my working yarn. So I'm going to reach through from above and pull that up to make my slip knot. And this slip knot will now slide bigger and smaller as I need it. And I'm going to put that onto one of my needles and make it tight. I've got my tail to the top and I've got my working yarn to the bottom. I'm going to then hold my second needle below the first one, and I'm going to grab the yarns by putting my forefinger and my thumb between them. I've got the slip knot on the top needle, I've got the tail to the top, and the working yarn to the bottom. And for Judy's Magic Cast-On, you're basically doing figure eights. So I'm going to take this top yarn, I'm going to go under both needles and between the 2 needles. So now I have 2 stitches, 1 on each needle. I'm then going to take my bottom one and do the same thing. I'm going to go under both and over and down the middle. Then from the top, under both, over and down the middle. And I just keep alternating these 2 until I have the number of stitches I need. Pretty much always you're going to have the same number of stitches on each needle. So for something wide like a shawl, you're going to do this a lot, but for the purposes of this video, I'll keep it short and I'll have just a few stitches on each one. So I've pulled these nice and tight, and now the trick with Judy's Magic Cast-On is you turn it around, and this last stitch is kind of just loose and hanging out here. So at this point, you have to twist these yarns. You twist the tail with your working yarn so that the working yarn, when you go to knit it, is now caught by the tail. So normally if you were now doing something like circular knitting, you would pull this needle forward and you would pull it around and start knitting. But remember, I'm doing this with circular needles and treating it as a provisional cast-on. So for this piece, I'm now going to knit flat out in this direction, and later on I'm going to want to come back, and I've got these stitches to knit flat out in this direction. So with my interchangeable needles, what I now do is these bottom stitches are going to be on holders. And so what I can do is remove my needle that I'm going to need to knit back and forth on the top stitches, and I can remove my stopper from my top needle, and I'm just going to switch those. So my stopper now goes on the bottom needle where stitches are going to be held, and my extra needle tip goes back on the other end of my top needle, which holds the stitches I'm going to work first. So now that I'm ready to go, I pick this back up. Again, I make sure that the tail and the working yarn are twisted. This can just be kind of held out of the way, and I am ready to go. And I can just start knitting into that top row. So that is how I use Judy's Magic Cast-On as a provisional cast on, and I do it using interchangeable needles where these bottom ones can stay held as a provisional cast on until I'm ready to work them, and in the meantime I've got my needle where I can knit up. Thank you so much for watching.